Can you tell me the difference between a well-behaved and a well-trained dog?
So for a well-trained dog, the most important thing we train the dog for is to do nothing.
A teacher will say, I think you need to go to the counselor's office. They'll go and they can just sit there quiet in front of the counselor and not say a thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that happening.
And they can do the same thing with the dog.
The dog will lick and it'll just change their mood.
Yes.
You're so right. Actually, we don't need human counselors. You need the pets.
I mean, I'm a counselor and I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
I work with my cat also.
Therapy cat?
Yes.
I had never heard of therapy cat.
Horses, fish, rabbits.
You train fish?
It's not about the training,
Okay. When I'm choosing a trainer, what should I look for?
When the trainer enters the house, the dog will just run under the couch.
That trainer should not come back again.
Exactly.
Got it. Welcome to the Happy Podcast, the ultimate destination for all things that make pets and their humans happy. I'm your host Sonali Bendre and this is IC Behel. And on this show, we will talk about everything that contributes to the joyous coexistence of pets and their beloved humans. Today, we are exploring a topic that is close to the hearts of many pet owners, the profound impact that pets have on our mental health and well-being. Pets are more than just companions. They're integral members of our families who offer us unconditional love, support, and joy. In this episode, we will discuss how pets contribute to mental health, the therapeutic benefits they offer, and ways to nurture a healthy bond that enhances the well-being of both pets and their human families. To help us navigate this important topic, we have Meenal Kaveshwar and Nishant Sharma. And of course, today to help us navigate this important field is Ollie, the special guest of this episode. I'm sorry, IC, but she is our special guest today. But you are always special. You're the most special, okay? Meenal Kaveshwar is a psychologist and play therapist who has introduced the field of animal-assisted interventions in India. That's a very new field and I don't think much of it has been discussed in India. And I'm really excited about knowing a lot more about it. Meenal is the founder of Animal Angels, India's largest organization working in the field of human-animal wellness. She also heads Animal Angels Foundation. What does Animal Angels Foundation do?
So Animal Angels Foundation was created with a vision that pets can do more than just be sitting at home, being just, pets at home. They have so much of love that it's not limited to just the family that they belong to, but they can in fact share that love and the emotional support they can provide with people who actually need it. Therapy dogs like Ollie, who are pets belonging to families. So the pet and the family or the pet and the parent volunteer to spread that love and joy that a pet gives to their family with others in need. That is the vision with which Animal Angels Foundation was created.
That also is our introduction to Ollie because that's exactly what Ollie does. She is a therapy dog.
Yes.
Ollie's mother is sitting behind the camera. She comes from a family who give Ollie's time as a therapy dog to people in need and work with Animal Angels Foundation.
Yeah.
And Nishant Sharma. Nishant Sharma, also known as Ricky, the owner of Ricky's Dog Training, is a certified trainer with 4 years of experience in coaching pet parents and training dogs. His journey into dog training began in 2020, pandemic time.
That's right.
With his first dog, Loki. I wish Loki was here too. Loki in 2020 is where he started training from. Within a few months, he found himself training dogs for friends and neighbors for free.
That's right.
In January 2022, he became a certified trainer, after which he took the plunge and quit his job. That's a hard decision to take, I'm sure. Today, he has expanded his services to offering not just training, but also home boarding services and sells training treats and chews. What are training treats and chews?
Basically, when we are training a dog for a certain thing or a behavior, so there are, you might end up giving the dog 50, 100, 200, depends on what you are covering that particular day. So training treat is something which is low on the calorie, easy to digest for the dog, good on the tummy, adding some health benefits to the dog.
Okay.
So that's a training treat. Yeah.
Okay. This is Isis's training treat. I'm training
treat,
her to share her bone with Ollie. What sort of training do you do? And when you're training the dogs, how are you training the families also? Because I understand that when you train a dog, is it like potty train also? There are certain cues that you give, they do some tricks, or what are the other what kind of training do you give to the dog?
So training a pet dog is, making that particular dog, an animal, a part of your family. So they will work and function like a family member.
Right.
When you need a companion, you want to share something, you want to just go for a coffee shop, you want to get to a market, you want to go to the beach, wherever you go, the dog goes with you, like the Vodafone dog.
Yeah.
So exactly that is what pet dog training is.
Okay. And how do you train the families?
For a family, a dog is, something when the puppy comes in and they don't realize
Cute
that.
puppy can be a terror too if not trained well.
Exactly. So they function, they do things around the puppy, they do things with the puppy, considering, it will remain a puppy forever. So to make them understand that this particular dog, whatever behaviors we are nurturing consciously, subconsciously, will develop into a habit.
Right. And that habit you might not be able to live with.
Just, making them a little aware about what they are nurturing and what things are to be avoided, what behaviors we don't want.
So does that include training the families into understanding the fact that they are not humans and that they are dogs and their way of thinking is different from humans?
100%.
Because a lot of times, like I know that, at home, especially when there are grandparents at home and they say, oh, bacche ko kaise treat kar rahe ho? You must be hearing
you
that
feel guilty.
often.
Yes.
Yeah. And also you're being kind to the animal if you let the animal remain the dog and not try to turn it into a human.
100%. Many pet parents, they don't want to see a dog as a dog.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if you say puppy or dog, it's they are not happy with those words. It's like mera bachcha hai.
That's true. They are.
Even with your kids, you won't nurture the habits which you can't live up.
Yes, that's true.
So just adding a little discipline and clarity in your communication with that dog. Yeah, that's the entire dog.
Is that the only way you can train them with treats, or is there any other technique to train them too?
So it's not limited to treats. So why we use treats is we need to give dogs some motivation to learn a language of another species. It could be any kind of motivation. Like certain dogs, they are not comfortable with certain treats. They are not comfortable with food at all.
Oh.
So that,
What do you do then?
So we use toys, whatever works for the dog. So we let the dog tell us like what he's ready to work for.
Right.
It could be the pet parent as well.
Right.
Like just to get that affection, just to hear that praise, the dog will learn to do that behavior.
Yeah. Just to hear the good girl, good boy. Yeah, they do that for that. How easy to please them actually, if you're going to say.
100%. Yeah.
So how is the training for a therapy dog different from this training?
So
obviously they would a dog would need to be trained in this basic training to graduate to this.
Exactly. So
begins that's school
with this.
And this is college.
Yes. This is post-graduation, I would say, because not all dogs can qualify to be therapy dogs.
Oh, really?
Not even all friendly dogs would qualify to be therapy dogs. Yeah, just like to become a lawyer or a doctor, you need a certain kind of personality,
right?
As well as you need the skills and the predisposition to be in any profession, like
like a doctor or a teacher, you need them to be more empathetic, more compassionate, I suppose.
And there are certain things that can't be taught, that have to come innate.
Correct.
Also, whichever job you do it best when you love it.
Right.
So the most important part is this job that the therapy dogs have to do. They have to thoroughly enjoy.
So Ollie loves her job?
Ollie loves the job. Ollie loves meeting new people. She is very comfortable going in new places. She meets children with special needs. Or she visits corporates where she goes into offices and interacts with employees to relieve their stress. So, for a therapy dog, the requirement is to go to new places, meet maybe hundreds of new people every day,
right,
and still enjoy that kind of attention.
Yeah.
Not all dogs can do that.
Yeah, some of them don't want to be petted so much.
Yes.
They want some time out after a
It is a little stressful for dogs who are not used to it and also who don't enjoy it.
How do you know if the dog is enjoying it or not?
So we have a very thorough temperament test for that.
Okay.
To check the dog's personality, their confidence level, and their liking. What is their innate quality.
Okay.
Like some dogs will come, say hello to you. They're very friendly, very nice, very tolerant.
Yeah.
They might seem to be the right fit to be a therapy dog. But sometimes all they want to do is come, say hi to you, and then settle down.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, would Icy be a good therapy dog? I'm not so sure.
We can ask Icy that because it's always the dog's choice.
Right.
We get a lot of pet parents saying that we want our dog to be a therapy dog. Yes, we will work with the dog, but ultimately it is the dog who will decide whether they want to be a part of this work or not.
Because Icy is so like loving and to us, of course. And, anytime anybody looks at her, she has a smiley face.
Yeah.
She brings a smile on everyone's face.
Absolutely.
So I always thought that this would be an interesting thing to introduce her to and to, kind of make her a therapy dog and. But my son and my husband were like, listen, but I don't know. Why do you want to put her through that?
Yeah.
Why do you want everybody's, whatever their negative emotions are, she's going to be soaking that in. No, we don't want her to go through it. So they just shot that idea down.
Yeah.
Does that happen? Do they soak it in? Or can I go home and tell my husband and my son that you were wrong and that we can attempt this?
See, I'm a psychologist. I'm a therapist, right? So when I work with any client and when I'm helping them navigate through their tough times, their emotional, turbulences, a certain part of me will also get affected. But the role of a good therapist is where you can detach yourself from that.
But will the dog be able to do that?
So we have certain exercises, or as we say, winding up the session, where we make sure that the dog gets his own time, right? At no point of time, this profession for the dog is not that strict that you always have to engage with the human.
Right.
The dog has complete choice of moving around, right? So even in a one-on-one session, say if I'm working with a client in counseling, right? Just like how we have Ollie moving around, the dog is completely free to move around. So there is no stress on the dog to do something which is against the dog's will.
So as you talk about the temperaments of dogs and, if you can, it's a temperament that decides if they're going to do this or not.
Yes.
My next question is to you, Ricky. How do you adapt your training methods to the temperament of the dog?
So before starting the training, we do try to get the requirements from the client. So that's the consultation, like pre-training consultation. That's when we actually get to meet the dog.
It's right on her.
For it.
This is too funny.
प्लान करके भी इतना accurately land नहीं होता था.
While training, how do you decide or adapt your training methods to the temperament of the dog?
So before starting the training, we do a consultation with the client. So we try to get the requirements from the client, and that's when we get to meet the dog for the first time.
Right.
So that's when we evaluate the dog. We spend some time with the dog. So it's not always like, getting the inputs from the family. We also get to know the dog, let the dog know me as a person, as a stranger. And that's when I understand if the dog is okay with strangers, it's okay with loud sounds, noise, touch. Certain dogs are sensitive to the touch. Accordingly, I design my training program. Let's say tomorrow, if suddenly there is some new sound in the environment and now the dog has, given a new input to me.
Right.
So we do have certain techniques, we quickly change it, adapt it, and, get the dog do the behavior or learn the behavior, whatever we have planned for the day.
Okay.
Even in therapy dogs, every dog will have a different personality. Some dogs like to just sit in one place and relax.
While everybody meets them.
Yes. And some dogs have high energy. They are very interested in playing. For example, Ollie is an agility champion. So her parent, Pooja, she has trained Ollie to also do agility jumps, and a lot of tricks, not just tricks, a lot of like interactive games.
Okay.
Right. So when we do this with, say, children with special needs or, in a hospital setup, it creates a lot of engagement.
Okay.
Right? Because yes, you will pet a dog for a while, but after that you would want to do something with the dog, which is, interactive. They can be put in the programs where we require
performance.
A lot of, performance, a lot of engagement.
So does Ollie enjoy performing?
Yes, she does.
You are a performer, Ollie.
Based on their personalities, then we assign them to different programs.
Okay.
So we have a very interesting program called as Reading to Dogs. The program is called Tales of Joy, where children read out to dogs. Children read out to therapy dogs.
Okay.
As a child, when we were asked to read in front of the class, like teacher would say, come on, now read the sentence. And we fumble and, we don't know what to read. Or sometimes we mispronounce and then the entire class laughs.
There's a trauma within you.
Yes. So this program is for children in that age group where they find encouragement when they read out to a dog.
Right.
Because the dog is not going to judge them, the dog is not going to laugh at them.
Yeah.
And it's such a fun activity to read out stories to the dog, or sometimes the dog becomes a character of the story.
Right.
So, for this kind of program, we need dogs who are calm, who will sit in one place, who will love the attention around.
How do our listeners or viewers identify what kind of certification they should look for when they're choosing a trainer for their dogs?
Choosing a trainer is not only limited to the certification. Yeah. And in India, there is no such, body to govern like whether the trainer is certified or not certified.
So what certification did you get?
So I did a course from certain institute. They gave me their training certificate.
Right.
Yeah. The trainers program I completed. So I got the trainer certificate from them. But till date, no client has asked me about my certificate. Yes. Neither they have asked me if I am certified or not.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like in India, if like you can show it, so yeah, you can sell it.
But you're a certified trainer, so we are using the word certified again and again. There's a reason for certification.
Yeah.
And the reason is that there shouldn't be wrong training that the
Exactly.
dogs have to unlearn, or sometimes they're traumatized by it also. They can't speak to us about it, but we don't know what kind of trauma they're going through. So just to know that the method that is being used is right, ideally I would say one must look for the certification, ask for it, and go about it. You would also recommend that, right?
Traditionally, there were trainers who would take the dog away from the family for that 60, 90, 120 minutes, whatever the session is. They will train the dog, bring the dog back.
Yeah.
So we are not aware like what methods were used, how he got the dog to do that certain thing. If the dog is showing certain behavior in front of the trainer, we just don't know. We were like, just say it. इसको जस्ट छुट्टी चाहिए आज. The dog is not ready to
मतलब फैमिली के सामने नहीं कर रहा है, फैमिली उससे वो नहीं करा पा रही है. Some trainers take the dogs away, but you train the dogs with the family in the house?
Yes. See, because I want them to learn what technique I am using, why I am using that technique. I am getting their dog to do a certain behavior, why we are doing that behavior.
Correct. Yeah.
So at times what happens, once the trainer leaves, the family tries to do the same thing, but the dog just won't do it.
Right.
So that is the reason I want them to learn what I'm doing. And once I am done with the dog, showing them, then I get them to do it like at least, couple of times while I am there.
Right.
So in case if there are any errors, we can get it rectified. So before I come for the next session, we have covered this part. We are clear on this topic.
So they are equally and integrally a part of the training session,
Exactly.
the family and...
Yeah, they are trained to train their dogs.
Service dogs, which is what Ollie would be, but not, because she assists in with the patients. But otherwise, even dogs that are used as service dogs in police and in military, they are taken away, they're boarded separately and then trained, I think.
There's a difference between therapy dogs and service dogs or assistant dogs. Yes.
That's very interesting to know.
Yes.
There's a difference between service dogs and therapy dogs. But I always thought service dogs were therapy dogs, were also service dogs.
The broader term is the assistant dogs. Right?
Okay.
Like dogs who assist people.
Right.
But service dog and assistant dogs is a term given to dogs who are employed for one person with disability. The dog fills in that gap for him.
Okay.
Right? By either being an assistant dog like hearing assistant dog or visual assistant dog. Right? For blind people or for hearing and speech impaired people or for physical assistance.
Right.
Where they help the people navigate on wheelchairs.
Or even aren't there the ones who can, kind of figure out the onset of a fit?
So that's a medical assistant dog, right?
So again, a medical assistant dog is a service dog, which is different from a therapy dog.
According to international laws, service dogs have certain privileges because these dogs assist people in navigating the social setup. So, say boarding buses or flying, in flight.
You can take your service dog.
Yes, because if you take the dog away, the person is going to go back to disability.
Right.
And in majority of the countries, independence to even people with disabilities is promoted highly.
Right.
Whether it is traveling on your own or working, there is no distinction whether the person has disability or a medical condition or a psychiatric condition. As long as the service dog is trained to do certain, help the person navigate to certain issues, the service dog, is allowed in these situations. So offices or transport or public spaces.
Right.
But therapy dogs are essentially pets. And they are trained to provide emotional support to other people. So they are not tied up to one person only.
Okay.
Right? So that is the main difference. They are like freelancers.
This spreads joy to everybody.
Yes. So wherever they go, they can, engage with people. They are meant to be friendly and approachable. If you remember, Animal Angels therapy dogs were on Mumbai International Airport as comfort dogs.
Oh.
Yes. And they were there.
Tell me a little bit more about this.
Yes.
Airport comfort dog.
Airport comfort dogs. This was an initiative by the Mumbai International Airport. And with Animal Angels, we created this program called Comforting Angels, where therapy dogs were stationed at the international terminus, the T2, to see off passengers who were flying.
Okay.
Right?
Was it for passengers with who are scared of flying, or
that was one reason,
or was it just to calm the passengers so that they wouldn't shout and scream and behave badly with the airport or the airline staff?
Imagine being stranded on an airport for 10 hours without knowing where you're going, when the next flight is coming. You can't even step out because you may not have the visa.
So you think the airlines should employ comfort dogs instead of giving hotel vouchers?
But believe me, people used to literally drop their luggage, their visas and passports used to be lying in one place. The boarding announcements used to be, called often. And we had to tell them that, your flight is, about to be, the gate is about to be closed. But all they wanted was to be with the dog. Even like sometimes... there's this notion of like being fancy on the airport. Like people are in suits or like fancy clothes. But people used to absolutely forget where they are. They used to sit down on the floor of the airport and interact with the dogs. But that is the kind of emotion that therapy dogs bring out. You will not find a need to pretend in front of an animal.
So that's what dogs do. And even in our families, we see that. I mean, the whole idea of getting pet home. There are so many emotional benefits to that. I mean,
they don't judge you.
They don't judge you and all of that. For me, we were very sure that we would have one child, and we were like, this is it. We don't want another child. Right? Let's do the best we can with this one. The idea of having, while we had a pet and, who was older than him, we wanted a pet, which was Icy eventually, who came in, who was younger than him. So that he would learn instead of, it's a sibling.
Yes.
Not a human sibling, but a fur baby for that. She would chew up his favorite shoes, favorite toy, which is what your kid brother or sister can break your thing, but you love them. So to build that empathy is what Icy came at home, and that's why she's the youngest and wants all the attention, because she's pampered by my son. But so that was the idea for us to get this pet home, to build the empathy. And I think I can vouch for the fact that I have a boy who has a lot of empathy and is a very compassionate boy. And that I found, do people actually go for that? And, how do you find dogs giving this kind of emotional succor, you would call it, to the families?
The first foremost thing what you get when you get a dog is your stress levels are, start getting lower and lower. So even if you make an eye contact with the dog will start wagging its tail, and automatically you have a smile on your face. So you have a long day at your office. Then you are coming back home, you have kids, newborn, grandparents, senior parents you are taking care of. It could be anything, but spending that 10 minutes with your dog, or maybe just taking your dog out for a walk for 30 minutes, it sets up the tone for the rest of the day. Like you are well equipped and emotionally to carry that task and get it fulfilled.
Right.
So that is the most important benefit you get when you have a dog.
So it's like the stress buster in the family, and we all know how many illness, stress, chronic stress can lead to all your major diseases are linked to chronic stress. And that's what the pets do. They're stress busters.
Yes.
They can be stress busters only if they're well trained or well behaved.
Yes, 100%.
Because somebody pointed out to me that there is a difference between a well behaved dog and a well trained dog.
Yes.
So you as a trainer, can you tell me the difference between a well behaved and a well trained dog?
Whenever you want to spend some time, some quality time, they're ready to do that. You don't need to wait to set the tone. You just call your dog and automatically things start happening. So for a well-trained dog, the most important thing we train the dog for is to do nothing.
Okay.
Dogs have difficulty doing nothing. If we take an example for Izzy,
Yeah.
we just wanted her
to sit
settle
here.
over here
Yeah.
and just do nothing.
Yeah.
She's very comfortable doing the same thing over there, but then she had someone, giving her that comfort. Difference between a well-trained and a well-behaved could be this very example. If you have a well-trained dog, you can just give a command to a dog, say relax. So my dog can do that.
Until you don't give the other command, they will sit and do that.
Absolutely. So relax means relax,
they're
just settle
working,
down over
basically.
here. Don't do anything. Doesn't matter there are equipments, doesn't matter there is another dog, doesn't matter there are people around. It doesn't matter when I want you to relax, you just relax.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary the dog won't react. Like if there is a loud sound, will raise her head, see what.
Not move.
People fail to train their dogs to do nothing.
Okay.
They, sometimes, so there are a lot of these things coming up on the internet, like mental enrichment, mental activities for the dog. So
we do that. We do puzzles with IC.
Yes, that's good, but you should have certain limit to it. So there is a very thin line between getting the right enrichment for your dog and overdoing it.
Okay.
Overdoing can make your dog hyperactive. They are constantly looking for things to do.
Right.
So then again, it becomes a challenge for you how to manage that. You need to be on toes always to give something to your dog. You become...
Something called overstimulation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is what happens to kids also.
Exactly.
When you overstimulate the kids, then they're not sleeping on time and
Yes,
I get that.
Exactly the same thing. So from a pet parent, within few weeks, few months, you become a caretaker for that dog.
My God, that's very well put.
Exactly.
If the dog is not well trained, from a pet parent, you become the pet caretaker.
Caretaker. Yeah, you are always doing things, preparing things for your dog to do.
Yeah.
If I can add to this, with therapy dogs, we push this further to train the dog.
Because it's a PhD, like you said.
Yes, to train the dog to think on its own and respond to human emotion on its own. For example, IC as a family pet will definitely be in tune with the emotions of the family members around. Whenever someone is feeling low or someone is not well, she will go and probably sit beside the person or give them some attention or
move away from them altogether. You never know.
Yes, it's a way of them responding to our energies. This check-in, as we say, the check-ins are done by every house pet. Every family pet will be able to tap into the emotions of the family members.
That's true.
But the role of a therapy dog is to do that with people that they don't really belong to, like as a family. So imagine Ollie or any of our other therapy dogs going to a special needs school or a cancer center or even like any place where there is high emotional needs. Just like right now, you can see Ollie is going and meeting everyone.
Yeah.
Right? She's just checking in on everyone.
Everybody.
Right?
Okay.
There is no command to that. That's why I said.
How old does the dog have to be to go get the PhD?
We start as young, at the puppy stage only, because right from the puppyhood, as we raise children, we raise therapy dogs.
You mean to say that once they've reached a certain stage, you cannot now train them to be a therapy dog?
No, absolutely not. So that's why the personality comes into play.
Okay.
There are certain parts which can be trained, but certain parts are, what the dog is born with, innately.
Right.
So we look for those things. So even older dogs who are say 5-year-old or 7-year-old can become therapy dogs if they have the right personality, the confidence and the health, and channelize what the dog has into what he is supposed to do.
You mentioned centers and, cancer centers and medical centers, special needs centers.
Yes.
Where the dogs go and work. But I know from what I have read that you really encourage the dogs going to schools.
Yes.
Why schools?
Just imagine having a dog in the school. A lot of people will think that, oh my God, having a dog in the school will cause so much of distraction. If the dog is introduced to the school in the right way, again, not as a novelty element, but as a part of the school. Like we have worked with schools, for example, there's a school called Inventure in Bangalore, Inventure Academy. We've trained 4 dogs for their schools. 4 golden retrievers. They are a part of the counseling program for the high school section, where they are in the school counselor's cabin. And whenever, say, a child is feeling low, all they have to do is just come to the counselor, spend some time with the dog. The counselor is there to guide them through their difficulty.
Yeah.
Just imagine having that space where you can just go and interact or spend time with the dog. You don't even need to share.
So many times when a teacher will say, I think you need to go to the counselor's office. They'll
There's
go
resistance.
and they can just sit there
Yes.
quiet in front of the counselor and not say
talk.
a thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that happening.
And they can do the same thing with the dog.
And
you
the
know?
dog will lick and it'll just change their mood. You're
Yes.
so right. Actually, we
Yes.
don't need human counselors. You need the pets.
Absolutely. Human counselors, I mean, I'm a counselor and I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
I don't shy away from admitting that we are limited in perceiving emotions of another human being. Why do we need pets? I work with my cat also.
Right.
In counseling
Have a therapy
sessions.
cat?
Yes. His name is Mango and he's fabulous. He's unlike any other cat you've met.
You know, I had never heard of therapy cats.
Yes. So it's not just dogs. We work
You
with
always
dogs,
see dogs.
cats, horses, fish, rabbits.
I can understand horses,
Yes.
but cats, fish, and rabbits.
Yeah. So every
rabbits,
animal-
okay, cute, cuddly, and all of
Yes,
that.
yes.
Fish?
Fish,
Fish,
exactly.
yes, yes. Fish again, not.
You
I
train
mean,
fish?
it's not about the training, you know.
Okay.
We can't expect fish to react the same way as
Yeah,
dogs
I mean,
or cats.
that's what I
would
thought,
do.
but I thought maybe I don't know something.
Cats, yes, you can train cats. You can work with cats. Unlike again the common perception that cats are very moody and they're very snobbish, and
But they are.
They are sometimes, but it's also it's apple and oranges. Because you can't expect a cat to behave the way a dog will.
See, because what I understand of cats is that you can't go to cats, they come to you.
They come to you. And that's a very good point for a counselor to have. A dog is being pleasers will come to you. But if you have to work on certain things like relationship issues, boundaries, navigating your own feelings, having a cat who will not come to you is in fact the best thing to have. That's why I said counselors as humans, we are limited. When we have
You're
animals,
right about cats set their boundaries so strongly.
Yes, whether we are
That's
working
something
with
we learn from them.
teenagers, whether we are working with interpersonal relationships, or whether we are working with people who have gone through certain things.
I think my teenage son will say that my mother needs cat therapy to understand the boundaries.
Absolutely. A cat will very clearly define its boundaries. Like a teenager, very subtle ways of showing affection. Right? Just blinking eyes would mean, yes, I love you. As opposed to that, a dog will like wag its tail and shake its bum.
Okay,
Yeah?
that's for us. It is. I've lifted my head from my phone and I've gone back to it. I love you.
Yes, exactly. That's how cats also show
Okay,
affection.
so teenagers are just cats. They were puppies when they were
Once.
younger. Now they
Yes,
are
now
cats.
they've turned into
Okay,
cats.
Yeah. Do all the trainers also, do they need to do the PhD? They can also turn into these trainers for therapy animals.
So, trainers or even pet parents on their own can prepare their dog to become a therapy dog.
Okay.
But the final exam, which is the evaluation, has to be conducted by a certified
So
professional.
what is this certified?
So we don't want a dog to get stressed out. We don't
Yeah.
want a human to get harmed in any way.
Right.
And stressed out may not just look like the dog is barking or snapping or not that. Even silently suffering
Absolutely.
and not being able to speak up for
Yeah.
himself is a form of stress in dogs. The training that we provide under Therapy Dogs India, that is the certification that is required, where dogs and handlers, which is one parent from the family, both get trained on working as a team to provide these services.
Okay.
Right? And for that, the handler also needs to have certain skill sets because you're working with the dog and with another parent or
Yeah.
another, say, probably individual with special needs. So the
But
parent
that
also
already
has
is
to.
beginning to happen because earlier training of dogs was when they went down or went to a park and the trainer trained
Yeah.
them. But that, because over a period as I've had dogs, I realized that now that has changed and where he's
Yes.
already training with the family.
Yes.
So that is a huge step forward.
That's a huge step forward. So the pet parent and the dog both are trained. Then they have to undergo an evaluation as a team where both their skills are assessed.
What
And
did you say that certification was called?
Therapy Dogs India, that is what we provide, which is our India level certification. And then Ollie is also, besides being Therapy Dogs India certified, she is also a pet partner certified therapy dog, which is an international certification.
Okay.
right? For which I am their evaluator for India region.
For India, okay.
So my training happened with Pet Partners as an evaluator on how to evaluate dogs for therapy.
Okay.
How to, make sure that the team is ready to work in these settings.
Right.
And that is the training that I do.
Therapy dogs always go as a team.
Yes, it's been 20 years that I'm working in this field, but now I'm happy that more and more mental health professionals, medical health professionals are getting their own dogs trained to be a part of their profession. For example, we have a dentist who has trained her dog with Therapy Dogs India to become a part of her dentist, pediatric dentist practice.
Beautiful.
Where she is working on,
Coming kids not scared of dentists at all, looking forward to it.
Then we have speech therapists who incorporate dogs in speech therapy practice.
I want to know, how do they do that in speech therapy?
In traditional therapy, the focus is mostly only on the issue. But with a therapy dog, the focus is away from, that issue in the person and mostly on the dog. And when you're doing activities on the dog, while the therapist is coaching you to work on the goal-oriented stuff, you find it easier to achieve that goal.
So a lot of times speech therapists work with games and, more playful things rather than the traditional speech therapy, which is more like,
just look
sounds
at the
and
therapist
stuff like that.
do
so
one-on-one.
this is an extension of that,
Extension
you would
of
say.
that. So
How
in
interesting,
any therapy,
my God. I want to know, does it work with the children with special needs?
Yes.
ADHD, autism. It works.
Yes.
Learning disabilities, different ones.
Yes. Therapists in their own capacity can work with the assistance of a dog. So a special needs educator can work with special needs children with the help of a dog. So say, for example, teaching children with special needs things like counting or spelling, or they have sensory needs, right? Where they need to feel and touch and, different textures. So the dog is like a compact, multi-sensory object.
God, yes.
So we make children practice on the dog's fur. Like, if they have trouble holding the pencil, they can practice writing spellings on the dog's fur. Or children with autism who have sensory needs or are hyperactive. When they pet the dog, when they explore the dog's fur, that itself gives them that calming effect.
But there are so many times when actually if you get a pet home and if the pet is well trained and is a stress buster, there's so many other needs that get addressed of the families without actually going to the limit of like special needs and stuff like that. While training is important, it's important to look at the certification so that you know that you're not traumatizing your animal and you're not traumatizing the person who's working on it also. So it needs to be...
Just to add to that about the certification, you also need to be well aware about the methods the trainer is using. So
what should I look for when I'm choosing a trainer? What should I look for?
So there are no any harsh methods. There is no shouting. The dog is happy to engage with the trainer. There are certain dogs, or there are certain trainers. When the trainer enter the house, the dog will just run under the couch.
Right.
Yeah. 15 minutes you need to bring the dog out, and then
that
the
trainer should not come back again.
Exactly.
Got it.
I mean, this is, I think, everyone who's working in the space of working with animals will second that we need some form of a governing body to at least make some basic structure in what is required to work in a field where you partner with animals.
Right.
As you are a part of the entertainment industry,
we have our bodies that govern us, and we have our ICARs.
Yes. One certificate that you need is that no animal was harmed during the shoot, right? But what about the other working dogs? There are sniffer dogs, and there are dogs who are on security, gates. Where they work as security, but not just airport, even large hotels and all, you will find security dogs. There are so many other type of working animals that are there. Training methods, certification, awareness, all of that is essential to grow. But definitely in the past 15 years I've seen, because we've come from a point where a lot of schools used to say no dogs allowed.
Yeah.
So we used to be called by the schools.
The dog then was a show and tell, which was on one. Today you can bring... The one dog can come in and everybody is around it, and that's it.
It is more of that entertainment factor. But from no dogs to hospitals calling us, to visit therapy dogs to visit their patients. So that journey.
When you take them to
shows-
hospitals, highly for immunity, and there's
Yes.
so many myths about that. So what is it that you do with the service dogs that go to hospitals? Are there special precautions that are taken to sanitize them? What is it?
Not sanitized, but hygiene precautions like a bath and external grooming so that all the loose fur is, out of the way.
Okay.
And also when we engage with people who are immunocompromised or who have certain specific needs, there are ways in which we make the dogs engage. For example, sitting besides the person, we all get fur on their body.
Of course, we live with it.
Ideally, we'll put a sheet or something between the dog and the person. Right. So that the dog is not directly on them. Or we will put some distance. There are a lot of activities that you can do even with a distance between you and the dog.
I can't imagine any activity with a dog that has distance. Everything is with the dog.
I know. When we work with, say, immunocompromised patients or palliative care patients who have wounds and who are not able to get up from their bed, with them, we can do activities where they just throw a ball. So even if they're lying on the bed and they just throw a ball and the dog gets the ball, that kind of an excitement and that kind of a engagement is enough to make the person feel good.
Better.
And once the person starts feeling better, other medicine and other treatment will definitely respond.
Yeah, because we all know that it's in the mind, and the moment you feel better,
absolutely,
medicines work better.
Absolutely.
Not
No matter how small the engagement is with animals, it is always going to be beneficial.
I agree. Just look at that. Looking at them is a joy. As we come to the end of today's episode, I'm reminded of the amazing impact that pets have on our mental health and well-being. From providing emotional support and companionship to reducing stress and fostering social interaction. Pets truly are invaluable members of our families. I hope today's discussion has inspired you to cherish the special bond you share with your furry friends and to prioritize their mental health just as much as your own. Thank you so much, Minal and Nishant, for being part of this episode. And thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Check out our YouTube channel, Rosepod India, for more exciting content. And stay tuned for more exciting episodes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ollie. Can I now get a hug from you? Do you think it's possible?